myself, like she said, Kathy Nye, I work for the Ventura County Office of Education. I am the McKinney-Vento liaison for the County Office of Ed, and I work with every single school district and charter here in Ventura County. I'm going to go over the basics of the McKinney-Vento law and some of the things that our office does to support and some of the updates that have been coming our way, as homelessness in Ventura County is not, it's a reality, big time, and especially for our students. So I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Can I make that louder?
You guys see that okay?
Nope, not yet.
Oh, okay, I showed it on the screen. How's that?
There we go. Yep.
Okay, so McKinney-Vento. Got to remember how this. Yeah, okay. So it's actually been around for a really, really long time. The original act was passed in 1987, and it continues to be reauthorized, and it was reauthorized under in 2015 by the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, as we know in education, and the amendments all took place in October 1. We're still, some of those things are still getting started in some ways. California State Department of Homelessness and Education just got audited, so there's a lot of things that are coming down from the state. It works hand in hand with Title 1A, which is another funding source, and other federal education programs. So we have to report not back to the state, but then we also have to report back to the federal government because the funds come directly from the federal government. So who's covered? Now we're talking about students. It used to be just K through 12, but now it includes preschool, which is a very, we're working really hard to identify all those students. So the one big thing about student homelessness versus a HUD definition of homelessness is this shared housing. If more than one family is living in a household, and there are students involved, then they are considered homeless. I use the example before I go any further of the pandemic. You've got 4 families sharing a nice big 4-bedroom house, but every family has their own bedroom. And I'm going to use intact families. There's also a 5th family renting the garage, but there's 4 families living in the household. And each one of them has 2, 3 kids. The ages of the kids are ranging 18 to 3. So the pandemic hits and families in room 2 and 3, each one of them lose a job. So 18-year-old pitches in, stops going to school, goes out and starts working. So does the 16-year-old. The 3-year-old is left in the care of the 14 and 15-year-olds. So they're not going to school either. The kindergarten doesn't have to go to school and can't get on the Zoom or figure out the Zoom anyway. None of the parents are in the household at night, in the daytime, because they're all working. A few of them actually work at night also with second jobs. So you've got 7 kids left, all of them battling for internet connectivity from their various Zoom classes. And that's a great illustration of why, even back in 1987, they said doubled up and multiple families living in a household. Our students are considered homeless. If they live in hotels and motels, we have a couple of motels in Oxnard, and it's only filled with families and kids. They live there full time. Private or public places not for designed to sleeping. I know just in Thousand Oaks, just like in every other city in our community, every once in a while you go behind a building and you find a sleeping bag and all the stuff that that person is living with. Trailer parks or campgrounds. RVs are the new housing. Car parks, abandoned buildings, emergency or transitional shelters. Believe it or not, there are 2 boys living in Thousand Oaks that were actually leaving in school every single day because that's where they got their food and that's where they got their support. But I actually had the liaison at CVUSD follow them one day and found out that they were taking a little boat and rowing over to an island somewhere. And there was a little shack in the middle of the island, and that's where those two boys lived. Their mom was in a hospital somewhere in Los Angeles, and that's where those two boys were living, but they were getting themselves to school every single day. Additional homelessness includes children and youth who are migratory, often qualify for homeless.
This is Claudia. Just a second. I'm hearing a lot of background noise, and I'm having a hard time hearing. I was wondering if we could turn off the microphones other than Kathy. It sounds very muffled. Is that possible?
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
Okay, thanks. There's a lot of talk in the background. Thanks.
So also we've got children that are migratory or often considered homeless. That's the family that was renting the garage for a while, abandoned in hospitals or unaccompanied homeless youth. And those are kids that have left their house or been kicked out of their house and don't have guardian supervision. Now that we know who's eligible, what does that provide? Well, it provides school stability and enrollment, transportation support, access to all educational programs that the school provides, free nutrition services. They're direct certified. They don't have to fill out all the forms to get free lunch, and additional support for academic success. So those are things that the school districts give them. The School of Enrollment, they're entitled to immediate enrollment in any public school that students live in. The same attendance area are eligible to attend, even if they don't have their required documents, health records, immunization records, proof of residency, guardianship, or other documents. They also have, if they missed an application or an enrollment deadline during their period of homelessness, they can still attend that school. Immediate enrollment strategies that the school district work is that parents don't have to sign to transfer students. That supports those unaccompanied youth. And most students have been enrolled in school before and have received those immunizations. So that shouldn't be a standing point or a stopping point for them getting started in school. Our students that are in the upper grades, we always want to talk to the students about what classes they were in or what special needs they might have. Maybe they don't have a copy of their IEP. Maybe, you know, they were taking advanced an English class, so we don't want to put them into a remedial English class. The counselors, teachers, and principals at the previous school can provide information, and we can ensure that the enrollment staff on every campus are aware of the law and procedures. One of the big pushes right now is letting the liaisons know at all the school districts and the charters is that all staff is supposed to be trained in the McKinney-Vento law and understand, because that's how we identify. If a child shows up wearing the same clothes 2 or 3 days in a row, if they don't seem to have a ready communication with their household, if their parents are driving them to the corner of the campus and you can see that they're getting out of the back where there's mattresses in the back of the car, or they're parking in RVs just down the street from the school continuously. Those are all things that can, you know, maybe they haven't identified themselves as homeless with the stigma that it attached, especially in a community like Thousand Oaks. But if everybody's aware of it, you know, the custodian or the yard duty could be outside and say, you know, and go in and do a check-in. We know that our numbers are extremely undercounted throughout the state. Unaccompanied youth are separated from their parents due to abuse, sexual or physical, family dysfunction, students that identify as LGBTQ and have left a hostile household, teenage pregnancy. 10% of our homeless are teenage young girls that have gotten pregnant, and many of them are not enrolled in school. But many of our kids, knowing that a high school diploma is that one step to having a better life, you know, they'll get themselves enrolled. I've from every school district, I get telephone calls. Can this kid just enroll himself in school? I'm like, yeah, he can. They want to go to school, let them in. Get your ADA and enroll them in school. Find out where they came from and what their background information is, you know, after they've gotten started. The liaison's job is multiple, but one of them is to help those unaccompanied youth choose and enroll in the classroom. If they've changed schools after the first 2 years of school, they can actually apply for a waiver, which gives them a reduced credit, a state graduate diploma. And then all school personnel, administrators, teachers, attendance officers, you know, everybody should be aware, you know, of course, keeping confidentiality there, but they should be aware of the child's situation so that they can offer the support that that child might need. Transportation, if students, if a family becomes homeless and say they find a safe park or place where they're parking, or they've found a room in a house, the district is liable for providing transportation back to that school of origin. School continuity is very, very important and protected under the law. So say a family in Westlake, you know, lost their housing and they moved somewhere in Thousand Oaks and the child wants to continue to go to school at Westlake High School, then it would be the responsibility of the school district to support that child with transportation. It can be as little as a bus pass, reimbursing the parent for driving the student back and forth, or in some cases we have one-to-one pickup. If they cross district lines and they still want to go to their school of origin, then the two districts work together to support that student going back to their school of origin. And a child is considered homeless throughout the entire school year, even if they get permanent housing and do the school year, and every single summer we do re-eligibility for the next year. Children that are in high school still have that right to go to their school of origin, so they can attend that high school for all 4 years. They just don't get that transfer. They just don't get some of the, you know, free lunch and transportation once they've been permanently housed. They would no longer be considered homeless, but they still have the right to attend the school of origin until they graduate from high school. So some of the barriers that to education are this stereotypes and lack of you know, awareness. Definitely under identification. I'm sure there's more homeless students in Thousand Oaks than we're counting. High mobility resulting in lack of school stability and educational continuity. The enrollment requirements really scare people off from re-enrollment. Poor health, fatigue, hunger, emotional trauma, depression, anxiety, lack of transportation, lack of school supplies, appropriate clothing, etc. And so those are all barriers to education. This is the website that the Ventura County office Ed has that you're more than welcome to go and visit. We have windows for pages that show resources within the community, resources to the school districts and some of the laws, early education issues and higher education issues, because we all know that we've got any student that is school is likely to have a child that sibling that's not in school. So that's our big push in Ventura County right now, is to find our littles, we call them, and get them into programs. And then a lot of our kids graduate, and then food insecurity and housing insecurity and college students is rampant right now. So so now I'm going to talk a little bit about funding. The county office gets the homeless children and youth funds from the state of California. And then, and I support all those liaisons. It is an unfunded mandate that every single school district in the country have a appointed McKinney-Vento liaison. And So I support the different districts with help with transportation. We do a backpack drive. This year we did close to 2,000 backpacks distributed to all the school districts. They kind of put in their orders as to what they wanted to start the school year with. We do a partnering with United Way to get all those backpacks together, and it's called Stuff the Bus. We work with School on Wheels, which provides tutoring to kids that are living in group home, hotels, RVs. They don't do, because they serve San Bernardino, Inland Empire County, Los Angeles, Ventura, Santa Barbara. They don't do doubled up support tutoring. We're trying to work that we can get to at least Ventura and Santa Barbara to do that, because we have enough volunteers that we could align them with some of our families that are doubled up that could really use that extra academic support. This year, as I'm sure you can hardly open a paper and not hear about the American Rescue Plan and the millions of dollars that have come down into our communities. California was given another $98 million just for homeless education programs. So each one of the grant recipients received an additional funding. So our office not only got the initial $250,000 a year grant, we got an additional up to $100,000 a year for the next 3 years to look at mitigating learning loss. We're actually pushing those out into MOUs to the districts so that they can spend the money the way they think is best for their community. And those MOUs are coming out to the districts this next week. And then the state has had an ARP HYC, or Homeless Children and Youth 2 funding, where every single district has been identified and being sent money directly from the state. So in Thousand Oaks, the liaison is Amber Bowman, and she's wonderful. And we work quite closely together. Probably hear from her, once a month with a question that comes up about a particular student or a situation that she wants guidance on. If I don't know the answer, I go right to the state. They, for the last 13 years, they've had one person in the office handling close to 300,000 homeless identified homeless students in the state of California. We now have 4 people handling that. So there's a team of people that are supporting us. And making sure that we are staying on top of everything. The little graphic on the side of my website shows where the ARP HYC funds are coming in, because there's lots of other funds that are coming into the school districts to address the impact of the pandemic on the students over the last 2 years. I also send a weekly newsletter out to all of the liaisons and affiliated agencies. Just kind of, I'm on lots and lots of listservs, so I try and capture the most salient pieces of news that come in addressing homelessness, and send that out every Friday afternoon. And then the agencies that support me, I forgot to put CDEs, but California Department of Education, the National Association of Education of the Homeless Children and Youth Organization. I'm actually flying to Georgia next week to attend their national conference and present on early education support. And then there's the National Center for Homeless Education, which is underneath the Federal Department of Education. And then Schoolhouse Connection is an advocacy group for our population, and puts out a lot of nice briefs and explanatory information on the impact of this federal law. So let's see.